My buddy Bryan Dobkin. Welcome to the Code. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good, Andrew. How are you?
Doing well, man. Thanks for asking. Well, I appreciate your time hopping in on this podcast conversation with me, and I'm excited about the conversation we're about to get into, kind of tapping into your expertise and experience to help myself and all the people tuning in to listen to this episode understand technology to a little bit better degree, understand how we can use it as a tool, how we can use it to our advantage and not potentially to our detriment, like some of the stuff you and I were just talking about off air. But all you guys that are tuning in to listen to this episode of The Code, really appreciate your time, whether it's your first or you're coming back for another conversation. Thanks for being here. Bryan, let's kick it off with this. Can you just tell us a little bit more about you? Kind of your experience in the technical world and
Yeah.
how we wound up starting to have this conversation in the first place.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thanks for having me on. It's been great getting to know you. We met through local community of other guys trying to better themselves, look to other people for support in all aspects of life, be it marital or, parenting, professional. And it's been a pleasure, man. So thanks for having me on your podcast.
Happy to.
Uh, Looking forward to the discussion today. As far as my background, if you were to go to my LinkedIn profile, what you would see in the little subheader below my name is father of three, husband of one, and strategic advisor to many. And that to me is really important. If you, as far as an intro goes and an explainer of who I am, it's in, you could swap those first two if you wanted to, but it's that order. So who I am is not my job. Who I am is not my profession. Who I am is a father of three amazing boys. Obviously, we're here in the Denver metro area with you. Got a beautiful wife named Nicole. And then, yes, I am a strategic advisor in my professional world. And what that means, I've spent the majority of my career focusing on employee experience, employee engagement. How do we make people happier, more successful at work? Um, and then now, increasingly over the last, year or two, the focus has been on the impact of AI, AI adoption, AI transformation, and what that means, for the workforce and for individuals as part of a workforce. So I am not someone with deep technical expertise, but I am someone who kind of understands these tools and the impact that they're having on us as individuals, on teams, and on organizations, both for good and for bad.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it fits in perfectly with, this podcast where we're really trying to focus on people and helping them optimize things in all different facets of their life, whether that be their physical health, their mental, their emotional, what they're putting in their bodies, how we're resting and recovering. And at the end of the day, we are all consuming information constantly, right? We are
Yep.
being bombarded with information in all different forms, right? We're hearing things, we're seeing things, we're typing and reading things. And in our practice at Physio Room, one of the things that we recently have been talking about with our staff is one of our core values is to be client centric. But with that comes kind of the flip side that we as an organization need to be employee centric and team member centric because when we take care of our team and you in your career like focusing on employee success and employee happiness and things, they're going to take care of the consumers, right? They're the customers, whoever's engaging with your business. And it goes both ways, right? If the employees feel taken care of, they're going to take care of people. So and I love what you said, where I'm a father to three, a husband to one, and a strategic advisor to many. And we're looking forward to benefiting from some of that strategic advising today.
Yeah.
But maybe to start things kind of broad, one of the things I would love is as we start talking about AI and what you've been focused on more over the past couple years, how have you seen artificial intelligence starting to really change or shape the landscape of what's happening in our organizations or just with people in general? What are some big broad changes that you've seen take place over the past couple years as it's been growing and growing and growing?
Yeah, I mean, I think important to level set a little bit first, thinking about this as, this AI revolution as possibly a more severe one, but yet another technological shift that we are going through. It is different. It is faster. So by no means is it the same as what we've seen before. I think the impact is going to be very different than what we saw, with the internet or with the personal, computing wave. Um, but like with any of those other shifts, the technology itself is neither good nor bad, right? Like technology is a tool, and how we choose to use it, how we choose to, let it influence us or let it the kind of impact that we let it have on us, like we are in control of that, at least to some extent.
Hmm.
Right? Like, not to go down, a kind of doomsday rabbit hole, but like there is a lot of fear and uncertainty around what this means for jobs, long term, right? And you've got people on one side saying, well, AI is going to displace a lot of jobs. There will never be as many jobs as what we've had before, right? It's only going to deteriorate further and further. Other people believe that, like in past shifts, there will be job creation to fill the hole of that job displacement or the job disruption that takes place. And I do think that's true, but the pace is so different
Yeah.
with this shift, right? Like, going back to the Industrial Revolution or even like the personal computing, that job displacement took took a little bit longer, and the job creation had time to like some sort of catch up, right? There wasn't as big of a lag between displacement and creation. And with AI, there is some question as to whether or not the job creation will happen, in quick enough succession, or will we enter this kind of more tricky period, where there is some concerns around employment levels
Yeah.
globally, not just in our country. But anyways, that was a little bit of a rabbit hole. AI, I think, has immense power to do good for us as individuals, for us as teams, for us as organizations. I don't know, Andrew, have you used it in your personal life at all? Like as, being a parent or a spouse, have you incorporated into your family life in any
Yeah.
way?
Yeah, good question. I think the answer to that would be only a very small amount in the personal life. I feel like I've utilized it more in my professional life, for work and our practice at Physio Room, or even like for this podcast, for example.
Yeah.
One of the things that we ask our team members to do, the providers on our team, is to create a blog post each quarter. So rather than typing a blog post, what myself and so far two of our team members have done is we recorded a podcast episode instead and used the transcript of the podcast to throw that into an AI platform to generate a blog post based
Yeah.
off of the information that we already spoke about. So, I wasn't asking ChatGPT or some other type of platform to just write a blog post for me. I was giving it information saying, hey, here's a podcast that we did. Here's the transcript of it. Can you please help us make a blog post article out of this information? So we've used it.
Andrew, I have a question for you as a
Yeah, please.
pro podcaster. Have you heard of Notebook LM, or which is by Google, or Copilot notebooks, which is Microsoft?
I think the only time I've heard about them is in some of our men's group conversations
Yeah.
when maybe you mentioned those things.
So what you were just describing, you took the transcript from your podcast, threw it into one of these Gen AI tools, and you were able to generate the blog post to accompany that podcast. Fantastic. Love that use case. But the flip is also true, right? You can take some sort of knowledge sources, some script, some set of articles online, throw them into one of these tools, and generate a podcast. So I
Hmm.
hope that doesn't displace your role as podcaster, but I have been really impressed with the audio discussion format that these tools are able to churn out.
Oh yeah, I do remember you mentioning that, and mentioning like you tend to be somebody who wants to listen to information rather than read
Yeah,
information, and I think that's like an awesome tool, and kind of like you mentioned, that's a quote unquote good way that we can use this technology for the better for ourselves.
exactly. Yeah,
Now,
I think, going back to I think your earlier question, right? You're talking about the good and the bad, right? And there are ways to leverage these tools right now, and you can think of simple examples. And one I'll point to is just me as a father. I was using ChatGPT and some other tools early on with my kids to generate bedtime stories, right?
Mhm.
Like I could just sit with them and I say, okay, what do you want your story about today? And they would tell me about this dinosaur or this dragon and where they lived and, if they were friends or they were getting in a fight. And, we'd input about a paragraph of a prompt and, I would have a custom story that I'd be able to read with each of my kids. And so that is an example of technology being used to bring us closer together in some way, right? And I think that's really important. Technology can be used to connect us, to create shared experiences. It can support creativity,
Yeah.
uh, but of course, there is risk that we become as individuals too reliant on it, or we're staring at our phones all day, or we're going down rabbit holes online. Um, or that the technology is getting in between the human relationships we might have with other people versus facilitating better and more powerful human relationships.
Yeah.
So just like with social media, AI is similar. It can be used to bring us together. It can be used to better ourselves. But the flip side is also true.
Mm.
If we're not consciously thinking about these things as we're using them.
Yeah, and I think if we can, focus our conversation on that sort of general framework or general theme right there,
Yeah.
I think that would be so powerful. Like you and I were talking about off air, how different people, even living in the same household, could have very different views and outlooks on the world.
Yeah.
Sometimes, or a lot of times, that can be shaped by what you are constantly seeing and engaging with online in our cell phones or on our computers. And, I don't know that everybody understands this. I definitely don't to the degree that other people do. But the algorithms out there, whether that's in social media applications or other websites and things on our phones, what we continually engage with continues to be put in front of us more and more and more. And most everybody knows that to be true just based on the advertisement that you get, right? You
Yeah. Of
you were looking at these shoes, and then now all of a sudden you're seeing advertisements for
course.
for this brand of shoes.
That
Um,
just came up with my dad. He was in town and we golfed 9 holes on Friday, and he was admiring the golf bag I was using.
yeah.
And he doesn't remember typing the name in his phone, but like a day later, he started to get all the ad. And I was like, Dad, it's I don't think it's listening to you. I'm pretty sure it's not, but you might have searched for it, and now you're getting bombarded with ads for that bag. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild how that happens. Obviously, technology is all around us all the time.
yeah.
But let's talk about that for a second. How like what we click on, what we search for can start to shape what we're constantly seeing and how that can
Yeah.
sort of start to shape your outlook or your perception on the world around you. You and I were talking about this in terms of like searching for jobs or, it could be politics, not that we need to get into
Sure.
politics, but like, you know, you could have a very negative outlook on the world because of the things that you keep seeing every day when you pull open your phone. Or the opposite could be true too. Another person might not see any of those things that the first person was seeing.
Yeah, it is incredible the different universes we each can live in. I joke about this with my wife all of the time. Um, Her internet and my internet are drastically different
Hmm.
places, and that's because of what she is choosing to engage with, purposefully or not, right? Like a lot of times we're engaging with stuff without even realizing we're engaging with it. And her view of the world is skewed because of what she sees, just like my view of the world is skewed because maybe I'm not seeing the things she's seeing. So it is incredibly true. I think people generally understand that these algorithms, and it's not just social media, right? People think, oh, my social media algorithm. No, there's algorithms on like every website, everything that you're touching and interacting with,
Hmm.
and it learns from your behavior. And one thing I think people overlook is that it's not just about what you're following, what you're clicking on, and what you're liking. Like people often point to those, oh, well, I'm not following those things. I'm not liking them. I'm not clicking on them. So why am I seeing more of it?
Mhm.
Just watch time, right? If you're lingering on your screen looking at a specific thing, you may not click with it, you may not think you're engaging with it in any way, but the
Mm.
fact that your watch time uh is a huge, it actually drives that algorithm's behavior more than clicks and
Yeah.
likes and things like that. What the algorithm perceives as capturing your attention, because listen, you might just scroll through your phone and you might be liking a lot of things, and the content itself is not actually registering with you. So likes is not the best way for these algorithms to feed you more of what you like. What the all-powerful algorithms have decided is that watch time generally is, or link, you may not even be watching a video. You may be lingering on a still image or an ad of some sort.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by watch time, just you lingering on that screen or that view. And it's insane how fast it adapts too. Personal anecdote. I was on Twitter or X or whatever people want to call it these days. And I was starting to see a lot, like my whole feed was this one, and we're not going to get into it today, but one like political news story or set of news stories. Um, and I not only was watching, I was engaging on blah blah blah. So my whole feed was like covered with this
Mm.
story or string of stories,
Yeah.
or opinions, even. I then something happened with that X account, that Twitter account, to where then I had to use like a backup one. And I noticed when I went to my backup, my feed looked very, very different.
Oh, interesting.
And I like missed that old content. So I had to go find I didn't like search and search and search for it. But when I found a story that was similar to the ones I had been watching on the old account or following on the old account, I started to engage with it. And it was amazing how quick, and amazing in a scary way, how quick my algorithm on this new account started to shift and morph and become exactly what I had had
Mm.
previously. So that's an example of maybe in an unhealthy way. I was curating and training my algorithm to get me back to those like endorphin hits or those dopamine hits that I was getting previously. And
Yep.
what was most shocking to me was how quickly it was. It didn't take days, it didn't take weeks. It was like hours, and suddenly my algorithm was similar to what I had been being shown previously.
Yeah, yeah. That is so interesting. And I wasn't really thinking about this, but when you said it out loud, that watch time or the time that you linger and your screen is active over a particular piece of content is really one of the more powerful things that drives what then gets put in front of us. It makes so much sense when you say it like that because time is basically the most valuable resource that we have, right? It's something that you can't get more of once it's gone. It's not coming back. I know, technology, we're all talking about biohacking and living longer and stuff because we're trying to figure out how we can slow down time and we can get more money, we can get more whatever resources, but not
Yeah.
that one. We can't get more of it. So it makes so much sense that that would be a more powerful driver of, the algorithms rather than likes or shares or any of those other things that we want to say. Um, yeah,
One thing that just resonated with me, and I don't remember, where this quote comes from, so apologies. And it's not even really a quote. It's more of just this concept that I think is important for people to realize. Feeds are optimized. Our feeds, and however you're defining it, are optimized for engagement. We all generally know that, right?
yeah,
They're not optimized for well-being in any sense of the word. Now, if you start to engage and interact with and train your algorithm to focus more on well-being, of mental well-being, emotional well-being, physical well-being, then ideally you will start to see that. But people often struggle, you and I are probably no different than a million other people. We struggle with this. And I want people to know that and hear that you are not undisciplined. Yes, it is hard, but you are not undisciplined. We are up against industrial grade reinforcement loops.
Hmm.
Like these are massive companies that are doing everything in their power to capture our attention and to keep us engaging with whatever, content they want us to. But
Yeah.
it really does take purpose, intention, and a plan. Step by step, what are tips, tricks, what are the steps I can take to start to curate a better experience, a better online experience for myself that will positively impact my health in all aspects.
Now, I know we were going to go through some of that, sort of towards the end of the conversation and have a challenge for the folks listening to this. But since we started this conversation, how can we start to do some of that? Like, how can we start to help train our algorithm to be more for well-being and since it's made for engagement and what's going to keep our attention, how can we start to be intentional or put some intention behind how we're utilizing our phones, our technology, and it's not just keeping us staring at it all day long with stuff
Yeah.
that's not actually going to better our lives in any way.
Yeah, I think there are some like overarching digital hygiene practices that we should all keep in mind. This is less this is again overarching kind of the themes to carry with you. One is curate your feed like you curate your home, right? So remove what doesn't serve you. If for the people may remember during the pandemic, there's Marie Kondo,
Yeah.
she got really popular, and I think I still use some of her folding techniques when I'm folding my boys' clothes. But anyways, she had that quote, right? Like, if it doesn't bring you joy, let it go. Like, get rid of it. Um, the same is true of your online experience. Try to curate, and it doesn't have to necessarily be joy, but what is serving you in a productive way and what is not, right? And please, like listeners, know that I am not like this is hard for all of us. And I don't necessarily practice everything I'm going to preach, but you don't have to be a chef to know what good food tastes like, and you don't have to necessarily be living all of these ideas to know that they are the right ones and would benefit us all.
Yeah.
So one is the curation, right? Think about your home, right? You get rid of stuff you don't need or that's not bringing you joy or that's getting in your way. Same thing with your online environment. Follow accounts, follow accounts that uplift, that educate, or that inspire you. I'm not saying you only follow those accounts, right? We all like a little bit of trash content from time to time too. Just like for food, right? Like we generally know we should be eating healthy, but we want to treat ourselves occasionally. Like none of us are going to be monks in terms of our online world. But as much as possible, make sure there's a balance there. Make sure you are following accounts that uplift, educate, or inspire.
Mhm.
And then be mindful. I'm really bad at mindfulness, but as you're online, try to occasionally check in with yourself. Like, what am I consuming and how is it making me feel? Um, I guarantee you, we all are consuming a lot of content that is not doing us any good, and in fact is having a really adverse reaction on us. Right? Like scrolling through this content and watching the Discord about some of the political landscape, it makes me angry, right? It makes me frustrated. It makes me upset. It doesn't mean I should be blind to what's going on in the world, but is it productive to like be consuming so much of that? Probably not, right? So striking that right balance. So those are like overarching themes. I love and we can get into some more like tactical step by step, like what should we think about doing over the next week or two. But what's your reaction to those three themes, if you will?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what it reminds me of is I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but on this podcast, we've done a few episodes around the topic or the concept of surrounding yourself with people that,
Mm,
bring out the best in you, or
yeah.
surrounding yourself with people that are in the place where you want to be, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Are you going to take life advice from somebody that is not in a place in their life that's anywhere remotely close where you're trying to go? Are
Yep.
you, if you're someone who's on a weight loss journey or a health kick type of journey, are you going to be surrounded by people that are doing the exact opposite of what you're trying to do? That's going to deter you, slow you down, hold you back from the progress you're trying to
Yep.
make. And the type of people that you surround yourself around. What do they say? You're the average of the five people you spend the most time with. Well, it's no different in person than it is online, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you surround yourself with online, that's going to shape who you are too, because we utilize that so much. Um, you mentioned, kind of curating your online experience the same way you might curate your home. And I think what you said before we hit record was like train your algorithm the same way that you would train your body physically, right? Are you doing things that are beneficial for your health and your fitness, or are you doing things that are the opposite of that? And you can train your algorithm or you can curate your algorithm that way. And then the
And Andrew,
mindfulness.
you're a fit guy, right? You're in good shape, but I guarantee you, you're not exercising all day long every day. Like you,
Yep.
I guarantee you, Mr. Andrew Fix here's got some couch time each day, or he's got some, veg out or zone out time. And the same is true with online. But
Yeah.
we want to make sure there is a healthy balance, right?
Right.
And we don't want too much of one or the other.
Hmm.
Sorry, continue
No,
with what
no,
you're.
no, that's perfect. And in the mindfulness, I'm all of these. I'm reading a book right now that is called The Scarcity Brain, and right now they're talking about the gamification of everything, right? Like I'm wearing an Aura ring right now. It's like the
Mhm.
gamification of health and fitness, right? So that you
Yeah.
can see this data and look at it and
Do
be.
you like those, by the way? I've thought about getting one, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't had it for very long. I did wear the Whoop band
Oh,
for a
okay.
few years, and now I just switched to the Aura ring. Part of the reason.
Hashtag not a sponsor, right?
Yeah, it is not a sponsor yet. Maybe one day. If this podcast grows, maybe they'll be sponsored. But yeah, I do like it. I like having the information. There have been periods of time where I actually took a break from it because I didn't feel like I was using the data to change any, like inform any decisions. I felt like, okay, I learned this information, I'm implementing that, but then I wasn't really looking at it and analyzing it very often. So then I took a break, and then I recently just got back into it and decided to try a different tool just to sort of see the difference between the two and see if I notice and if they're the same or if they're different. But I do like it overall. Um, the mindfulness is so interesting because I think that's something where I was thinking about the Aura Ring or the Whoop or whatever topic. A lot of these things will show changes in our heart rate, changes in our respiratory rate. It estimates your stress level based on what your heart rate and things are doing. And I would be willing to bet, like you said, if you engage with certain type of media, it gets you frustrated, it gets you anxious, it gets you stressed out. I would be willing to bet there's some fluctuation in what we would see on our devices that
Oh
are
yeah, for sure.
tracking our data. Even if
That's
we're
a
just
good
sitting down.
experiment. Like I almost want to go out and pick one of those up just to like help me be more mindful as I'm engaging with content,
Yeah,
right? Like if I'm noticing spikes in, stress or cortisol or whatever, I don't
yeah,
know what it's able to tell me.
yeah, it's
That
interesting.
would that would be, a very strong indication that, hey, maybe engage with that content a little bit less.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, totally. But I mean, it makes sense. I love those three kind of takeaways. Like, are you engaging with things that are serving you? Are you following accounts that uplift, educate, and inspire you? And then be mindful and check in with, how are the things that you're doing in reading and engaging with, how are they making you feel? The same
Yeah.
way as you might be mindful of what you're eating and how, if I eat this thing, how does that make me feel? Well, if you continue to feel like shit after you eat this one particular food, that might be a good indicator that you should probably stop eating that thing. If you wind up having terrible GI issues every time you eat that one thing, probably eat it less.
The problem with having three young boys is I'm attending far too many kids' birthday parties, and um, I, those cheese pizzas are so tempting at the end of the party, and it's really hard to keep myself away from it.
Yeah,
But I know it
absolutely.
makes me feel like shit, and so I try not to eat as much. And the same is true for our online environments as well.
Yeah. Yeah, totally, totally. Well, maybe you could speak to that for a second. Like, it's hard to avoid something that's right there in front of you. I know I have felt this. I'm sure other people have felt this. There are times where you mentioned the word, dopamine and whatnot before. There are times where I didn't hear a notification, I didn't feel my phone buzz, but I want to pick it up and check it.
Mhm.
I want to like
Yep.
turn the screen on to see if there's anything there. And I might be doing something else that I should probably be more present with and focused on. That could be hanging out with my son, that could be doing whatever, right? Driving down the road and you feel the need or the desire to check your phone. Or
Yeah.
sometimes also my phone will be in my pocket and I'll feel like it vibrates or buzzes and it
It
didn't
does. I
buzz.
know. Phantom,
Having those
phantom buzzing. Yeah.
phantom phone buzzes. Maybe you could speak to some of that for a second and just like how that happens, why that happens.
We were all trained early on. Even if for those of us that have gotten better or been more purposeful over time, right? Our early years of engaging with all this tech, and we're talking depending on how old you listeners are, like maybe it's the past 25 years, maybe it's the past 20 years, whatever. But like in those early years, we didn't know as much, right? And so we didn't think about muting notifications. We didn't think about it. So like we are operating now because of decisions or the lack thereof that we made earlier on, right? Like that compulsion to check is because once upon a time you probably were getting, even if today you've muted all your notifications, you've turned them off,
Yeah.
for a long time that probably wasn't true. So you created that feedback loop for your mind and your body to where like I pick up my phone, I'm gonna get that dopamine hit because there's gonna be notifications.
Hmm.
Even if today there's not, we were still, we trained ourselves or our phones trained us early on that engage with the phone, you get that dopamine hit, and do it regularly because that dopamine feels really good. And
Yeah.
it takes a while for that to wear off, right? For that to shift, which is why, I think that at the core of what you and I are talking about, it's intention, it's purpose, it's not letting mistakes that were made previously impact us for all time. Like, how can we start to change, the course that we're on or the path that we're on?
Yeah.
Um, Notifications uh, are like sugar, right? They're okay in small doses, but they're corrosive by default. So that I guess would be, one quick hitting tip is if you don't already like turn off all your notifications except for those that are most critical and ideally those that are related to human connection. So like it's fine if you leave your notifications on for your chat, your text messages. It's fine if you leave them on for like your phone, especially if you're a parent and or a spouse. Like those are important. But for everything else, turn those notifications off.
Yeah.
Um, Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say now, sort of on that, that's like something that I've done as it relates to social media apps and email inboxes and stuff. Like I only see the notifications if I click into those things,
Yeah.
right? I don't just get pings on my phone every time I get an email because half of those emails are not urgent in any way.
Yeah.
In fact, if something's urgent, you probably shouldn't be sending an email about it anyways. You should be picking up the phone and calling somebody.
It's a
Um,
lost art, Andrew, the
yeah,
art of picking up the phone and calling
yeah.
people.
Or at least send them a voice memo type message or
Yeah,
something,
yeah, yeah,
something where you
yeah.
can get that point across. But is one of the other things that I haven't yet implemented that I have recommended to people that I'm trying to constantly get better at is rather than task hopping from like tab to tab or application to application, like setting aside time in the day or scheduling time in the day to do certain things. For example, in the morning, I spend 30 minutes going through my email. In the
Sure.
evening, I spend 30 minutes going through my email. And the same could be true with whatever, Instagram or some other type of application. Like plan a time that you do that thing
Yeah.
instead of jumping in and out of it repeatedly all day long.
Yeah, and this, what booking um time to engage with certain content or certain apps, I think is very smart. But the same is true, like being purposeful with our calendar in other ways, booking that focus time. Right? You know, fo think of like focus time is to your calendar what sleep is to your body, right? Like give your calendar a break. Give your engaging with devices a break. Like, yes, you can budget in like email time or social media time, and that's all good, but like also budget in the productive time as well or the mindful time. I think that's really important. But
Yeah.
I love that idea, right? Being purposeful about when we're choosing to engage with content versus it being these little mini hits of dopamine throughout the day because we keep checking Instagram or Facebook or whatever.
Yeah, I kind of use the analogy for that as it relates to like it's different, but it's similar enough to like meal prepping or food
Yeah.
prepping, right? If you know what you're going to have for lunch or for dinner because you've prepped it ahead of time, or you know when you're going to work out because you've scheduled it ahead of time, it's not going to be this like need for like constant snacking or something throughout the day, right? It's not going to
Yeah.
be this like constant distraction of notifications and apps and whatnot all day long because I know at 4 o'clock that's what I'm doing. Just like I know, hey, at lunch, I'm not going to open up the refrigerator or pantry and have no clue what I'm going to eat. So I'm starving and I just start eating whatever I want. I know, hey, I made this thing ahead of time. This is what my lunch is going to be. Or I know what workout I'm going to do when I arrive at the gym. I'm not just going in there and just winging it because it's hard to expect any type of results if you don't go into anything with any sort of a plan of action that you're going to do. If you do things random, you're going to get random type of results. So,
100%.
yeah.
And at the core of this whole conversation, that's what it is, right? It's being purposeful. It's having intention around what we do and don't do. It's mindfulness, um, and that's all well and good. But it's for some people that sounds a bit fluffy or it sounds cushy or amorphous, right? So what are the tangible things people can do? I'd say there's like four challenges, and I would challenge you and I, Andrew, to do this as well. And I encourage your listeners try to do at least two or three of these four. If you're not successful in all four, give yourself grace. But the first is clean house. Over the next 7 days, hide or mute 50 posts that you either don't want more of or that you think is impacting you in less than ideal ways. So that's number one. Hide or mute 50 posts that you want you don't that you want less of. Um, to fill that void, number two is seek out and find 10 accounts that reflect your values, your goals, maybe it health goals, financial goals, like whatever, right? Just something that is going to be productive and inspirational to you, that align with who you're trying to be,
Hmm.
right? That's the reflecting your values, and what you want out of this life. So number one was hide or mute 50 posts. Number two, follow 10 accounts that align with your values and your goals. And then number three, and number four, this is often harder for people, I think. Set a 30-minute daily cap for one app. We all know that there is one app that is the most dangerous to us. Like it sucks our time up. It is impacting us mentally or emotionally the most. We all, for me, it's probably TikTok.
Yeah. Well,
And
you
way too
mentioned it
much time.
earlier, right? You mentioned it earlier that like screen time or watch time is one of the most powerful things. Well, most of our phones, probably everybody's phone, has their version,
Yeah,
whatever type of phone you have, of like a screen time kind of
yeah,
analyzer where it tells you where you spend your time on your phone and or on your laptop. In my case, since I'm using an Apple device, they kind of like
yeah.
sync together. But if you're unsure where you're spending most of your time as it relates to
Yeah.
technology, you can probably find out just by clicking to the settings on your phone.
100%. And sometimes it's scary to look at that screen and see how much time you've been wasting. But same thing in all of our phones, our devices, there's often the option to set that time limit, right? We don't have to be super disciplined, right? We don't have to time ourselves and be like, well, I've hit my 30 minutes. I guess I'll go on and do something more productive now. You can set those caps on app times, in your own device. Again, I think that is a hard one for people to do. And it's also then easy to turn off,
Yeah.
the limit, when you but so like it does take some discipline. It takes that mindfulness. But set a 30-minute daily cap for the app that is most dangerous to you. And then, like I already said, number four would be turn off those non-human notifications. Um, it's our kids should be allowed to bother us on our devices. Our wives or our husbands, should be allowed to bother us. Um, but anything that is an app or a piece of tech that is bothering us, turn those off, right? You don't need the Facebook notifications, you don't need the Insta, the Twitter, the whatever. Um, Nothing in unless you're a brain surgeon or a surgeon, like nothing we're doing is that urgent to where it can't wait until a more optimal time of your day to engage with that info or that content. So
Yeah, I love those 4 points here of the challenge. So clean house, hide those 50 posts or mute them that are showing you content that's, you want less of, that's not beneficial for you. Number two, find or search for 10 accounts that match your values, goals, that you're in alignment with, that align with, the things that are going to uplift your life. Three, set that 30-minute daily cap for one particular app. Probably most beneficial if it's the one that's sucking the most of your time, that's going to have the largest impact on your life.
yeah,
And number four, turn off those non-human notifications, the things that you don't need to be notified about right now, that don't need to interrupt you during whatever it is that you're doing, whether that's spending time with your kids or in the middle of work, that are like distracting you from getting things done because you're getting a notification from, say one of the ones that happens to me is I get these ESPN notifications
yeah,
that'll tell me
yeah,
something about the NFL season, and it's like in the middle of the workday, and lights up my phone. Like, well, for what? I don't need that right now. It's cool to know at some point, but I don't need it right now.
Well,
And
you bring up a good point. Some of your listeners may be gearing up for fantasy football season,
right,
right? I am one of those people. I have two drafts tonight. Uh, Unless your league is on and this is not going to resonate with, a portion of your audience who maybe doesn't play fantasy football, but for those that do, unless your league is on daily waivers and you have to be on top of what players are available or injured or whatever, you don't need notifications on your app, right? You can wait until, it's an appropriate time to figure out what's changed over the last week. So to your point,
yeah,
the ESPN notifications, the Yahoo notifications, the whatever, like none of that is so critical that it needs to interrupt, your other facets of your life.
yeah,
So that's a great example, Andrew.
yeah. And just to take number three there, setting that 30-minute daily limit for one of those apps, to sort of compare that to other recommendations that we might make, right? Let's use nutrition or exercise as the example.
Sure.
If somebody has not been training, not been going to the gym, not been exercising or running purposefully, I'm not going to tell them go to the gym 6 or 7 days a week. We're going to start with two or something, a
Yeah.
smaller number that's more bite size. If you're hearing Brian or I say, set this 30-minute daily limit, and you're like freaking out inside your head, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do that? I spend 3 hours a day on whatever, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever application or website it is, and you don't think 30 minutes is realistic, or you try to do this and you end up just being someone that just keeps blowing past the notification, like, are you
Yeah.
sure you want to keep using it? You've already met your 30 minutes. Then what I would encourage you to do is continue to chip it down. So if your screen time, whatever analysis shows you that you've been spending 3 hours on something for a week, cut it down to 2.5. And then the
Yeah.
next week, cut it down to 2 hours. And then
Love
the
that.
next,
Yeah.
and like stair step your way down so that you can get to that. So it doesn't feel like as dramatic or drastic of a change, just like gaining weight or losing weight. When this happens gradually, it's not as dramatic. Nobody notices it. You look at a picture of yourself like 6 months later and you're like, wow, for
Yeah.
for good or for bad, right? Whatever you were trying to do or not trying to do. So if you don't think it's realistic, then stair step your way down so that you can get the benefit of having so much more time back in your day.
Yeah. And I think, people have heard that advice for a long time, right? Limit screen time, limit these, unproductive apps. And it is hard for a lot of people. So I like the stair step, like, give yourself grace, like take the time necessary to bring yourself down to a reasonable amount. But you know what might help make that easier is if you do the number one and number two,
Totally. Yeah.
especially number one, right? If you start curate or tending that online garden, that's a cheesy way to put it. But if you start to curate and you start to mute and hide those posts that
Mhm.
may be super addictive and they're not helping you be a better human, then it might also then make it easier to reduce that time that you're spending on that app.
Yeah.
And you'll follow number two is follow those new accounts that will help you like we said earlier, inspire, help educate you. They're aligned with your goals, your values, all of that. Um, then you'll be able to repurpose that time you're saving from not being on your device in more productive outlets because
Hmm.
that's what you've exposed yourself to, and you've trained your mind to think about those productive pursuits versus whatever other, garbage I'm consuming on a regular basis.
Yeah, I love that. One thing I want to sort of ask you before we start the process of wrapping things up. This is, maybe a little different than what we had planned to talk about, but I think this would be totally relevant. I would imagine everybody listening to this conversation is either an employee themselves of some type of an organization, or they're an entrepreneur, they own their own business, and
Yeah.
maybe they have hired other people, or maybe they plan to hire other people, or maybe they don't plan to hire people, but hopefully their business continues to grow in such a way that it becomes too much for themselves to handle, and they're going to be forced to make the decision to maybe hire and bring on team members. You've spent much of your career in the like employee engagement, employee success type of space, employee happiness and retention. What are some of the major themes that you've found that might help people, if they're an employee themselves, how they might be able to find more fulfillment or more happiness in their role or in their job? Or if you're speaking to someone who is in a management or business ownership type of position, to continue to engage and retain and help their team members feel more fulfilled in what they're doing every day.
Yeah, I mean it's such there's what the research shows, right? And what is generally true across a large enough population or a large enough sample size, right? In one of my roles, we call it the elements of people's success, right? And it's things like well-being. And that's true that not just like physical, but emotional and mental, well-being. Um, it's things like purpose, right? Like feeling like you have some sort of purpose, that your role is fulfilling some purpose, your company is helping you achieve that purpose. But like those are examples of those like pillars that we have found to be true across most, populations, most workforces.
Yep.
And I think most of them hold true. When you get down to the individual. However, there's a lot of nuance there. And so I don't want to sit here and say like these are the things you need when you're building your team. Like this is make sure you're creating this type of experience because this is what will lead to success. Like I've spent many years as a consultant and I vomit in my mouth a little bit telling people like your problem is X and here's the solution, right? Like no, there's so much nuance. And I'll give you an example that is true for me.
Yeah.
We recently went through like the annual performance cycle where we're reflecting on what we've done over the last year, and we're also looking ahead, year ahead, thinking about not just our goals and objectives, but like longer term. What do we want in our career? What direction do we want to take it? What support might we need in order to get there? And I struggle with those exercises so much because I cannot, for the life of me, think of the type of work or the type of organization the type of work or the type of role that I want to pursue.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer to that question. And I'm sick of being asked it, frankly, by, by peers or by, superiors. And I've got some great leaders and great colleagues, so I'm not disparaging any of them. But, it comes up and it always makes you feel uncomfortable. And what I've realized now at age 41 is I don't give a crap. Excuse my language. I wasn't sure how much we could swear on this podcast, but I don't care what it is I'm working on. And I don't care what title or role I am in. What I care about is do I feel like I'm good at what I'm doing and or improving a little bit day by day, right? Because we're not all going to be good at everything, but do I feel like I'm making progress and heading in the right direction and becoming more impactful with what I'm doing? Am I having that positive impact on others, be it customers, be it colleagues, whatever? Do I feel like I'm good at what I'm doing, and do I feel like I'm positively impacting some external set of stakeholders? And And number three, obviously, am I working with people that I actually enjoy working with, right? Like other
Yeah.
humans that generally speaking are good people and they're there to support you and we want to better each other. Like, so I know that wasn't quite the answer to your question, Andrew. Like there is the classic consultant answer of like, well, these are the things that, you need for workforce optimization and for people like that's all important. It's a good roadmap. But when it comes down to individuals, like figuring out what matters to you,
Yep.
what's going to fulfill, what's going to fill your cup, what's going to give you purpose. Like at the end of the day, that's what matters. And for me,
Yeah.
feeling capable at what I'm doing and or improving, having a positive impact on others and working with people that, you know, are a positive influence. And this goes back to our online conversation, right? Am I surrounding myself with people that are gonna make me a better human? If so, then I'd say I've won, and I hope other people feel the same.
Yeah, I love that answer because it kind of jives with everything that we were talking about being done with purpose and with intention, right? One of the things, take do I enjoy the people that I'm working with and the people that I work around? Well, we were just talking about ways to utilize technology in our phones to drive human interaction and human connection as opposed to take away from it. And
Mhm.
if you don't engage with and get to know and have curiosity about the people that you're around and feel that they have the same for you, well, you're not going to develop much of a relationship with those
Yeah,
people. You're probably not going to say that you like them very much, right? You wouldn't list them off as like good friends of yours or something. But if you get to know those people, get to know their families, get to understand what makes each other tick, the chances of you having a strong relationship with them is so much better. And that's that's going to check one of those boxes. And then if we're utilizing technology in a way that positively shapes our our viewpoint and outlook on the world so that we're waking up every single day with a more positive mindset, and then we're what we think about we're bringing about, and we're being more positive and optimistic about things, well then your interest or your desire to keep putting in the effort to get better at what it is that you're doing every day, if it's not something that you're already like really good at, you're not going to get better at it if you're not purposely putting some effort into it. And yeah, nobody likes the feeling of trying to do something and not feeling like they're successful in it. But if you're
yeah,
putting forth the effort and you know that like you could answer the question like, did I give my best effort today? And you answer that question, yes. Well, you're probably going to gradually get better at that thing, right? Whether it's a sport or an activity, or whether it's in your work life, in your career. So yeah, I think that answer is awesome. And at
it's
least for
not
me,
just,
it
listen, we're
resonates.
not always going to be able to give our best effort. Like some days we just feel like crap, or we're just not feeling very motivated, and
Yeah.
like that's okay. But do you feel like you took a step in a right direction?
Yeah.
You feel like you positively impacted someone in even a small way, right? Like, did you make someone smile? Did you help someone else learn something new? Like, we don't have to knock every day out of the park, but if you feel like every day there are those moments, uh, when I golf with my buddy, we're not good golfers, and I almost never can pull together a full round that is good, but we joke and we say it's about the moments of glory,
Yep.
right? If we can just get a couple moments of glory in that round of golf, we leave feeling happy. And I'd say the same is true with each and every day that we're living. If you can look at it and say, hey, there were a few good moments there, personally, professionally, whatever, then I'd say you're living a pretty good life.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I hear that from everybody that plays golf. I play it very rarely, but you
Yeah.
have one or a couple good hits or a couple good holes, and it keeps you coming back wanting more. So you got
Yeah, 100%.
got that reinforcement. Well, let's get you out of here on this, Brian, so that you can get back to your three boys, your wife Nicole, the teams, and people at work that need you. But any like closing remarks or closing thoughts for people? I love the challenge that you posed to all of us, those 4 items to work on over the next week. But anything that you want to like just leave us with in closing?
No, I mean, I think I would just close with and repeat something I think I've said a couple times. Like this stuff is hard, right? Like we are up against industrial and technological giants. Going back to the technology and training your algorithms, like um, don't don't think it's easy and don't feel bad if it feels hard. Just make small steps in the right direction. And if you are listening to this podcast and the podcast episode ends and you go online, onto whatever social account and you just find a few things to unfollow, you're on your way, right? So start small. Andrew, I liked what you said with the stair step down in terms of app time. But that's true of all the tips we gave. Like if they feel daunting, if they feel time consuming, whatever, start small. Go follow a couple accounts that will uplift you. Go unfollow some content that's bringing you down in the wrong direction.
Hmm.
And then, over time that will snowball. So I wish everyone luck in the digital battle that we're all fighting in the digital journey. And hopefully today's conversation gave some people some tangible things they could do to move in the right direction.
Yeah, I love it. One step or 1% at a time.
There you
And
go.
yeah, thank you, Brian, for your insights, for taking the time to join me here on the Code Podcast, and to curate and feed that algorithm, you guys, to help us get this information out in front of more and more people. If this is your first time listening, or if you've listened to other episodes of the Code before and you've not left a review, now would be an awesome time for you to scroll to the review
There you
section on
go.
whatever platform you're on. Drop 5 stars on there. And in the show notes, you can find my contact information if you have any comments, questions, or topics that you would love to hear information about. Please let me know so that we can get those things out to you. And thank you in advance for that review. Brian, I hope to catch you at our next Pillars meeting. I've missed a couple of them, so looking forward
So
to
bad.
reconnecting with you guys. And I hope you have an awesome rest of your day. Thanks again for your time, buddy.
Thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate coming on, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day too.
You too. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you on the next episode of The Code. We'll see you later.